Welcome to Land Academy. This is the Cash Flow from Land show, where we show you how to buy unwanted vacant land and sell it for more on the internet. I'm Steve Butala.
I'm Jill DeWit.
We are your hosts. With over 15,000 completed transactions, we are the experts in this niche land flipping business.
We hold a drawing to win a free property every month. Enter to win by reviewing this show on iTunes and downloading our free ebook at landacademy.com. All right, let's get this show started.
James Wise is a licensed real estate broker. His company, the Holton Wise Property Group, operates one of the largest scattered site rental property portfolios in the Cleveland, Ohio area. They cater to investors both local and out of state who want to build a long-term wealth program through passive income investing. He's always had a passion for real estate investing. He purchased his first property at the age of 21 and never has looked back. He's been a guest speaker on several real estate investment internet radio shows and podcasts. He regularly writes blogs and articles about real estate investing. James is a lifelong resident of the greater Cleveland area. He's an active member of the National Association of Realtors and the Akron-Cleveland Association of Realtors. He holds an associate's degree in business management from Cuyahoga Community College. Jill, you're like 21. How does it feel? You guys have kind of kindred spirits, the same kind of investing age.
Say that again? I'm 21. I like that. Thank you.
No, James, did I leave anything out?
Nope. I think you hit everything on the head.
Excellent.
You threw me on that. That was good. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, all kidding aside, Jill, can you imagine
oh my goodness,
starting this when you're 21?
And staying with it? We kind of did. I did, but then I got this, I don't know, like I was supposed to have the corporate whatever job, and I got sidetracked, but I wish I would have stayed with it.
I went into public accounting, and then I bought a rental house, and I sold it, and I horsed around with a bunch of other stuff for 10 years, and then finally.
Right. It all comes back.
So, James, I got to know, what pushed you over the edge at such an early age?
I always wanted to be a landlord. That was like my dream. I don't know why. I just thought that was a great business model that I wanted to do. You buy a house using somebody else's money, and then somebody else pays off your loan. As soon as I heard that, I'm like, sold.
So the switch just flipped in your head, and that was it.
I'm like, greatest idea ever. Sign me up.
So did you ever want to be like a fireman or a baseball player or just a landlord?
I mean, I'm sure I wanted to be a baseball player around the age of like 10. But I'm not much of an athlete, so that quickly went to the wayside.
So who are you in your professional industry? Like, explain your niche and how many units you guys have. Give us a good, solid overview.
Okay. Yeah, the Holton Wise Property Group. We're located in Cleveland. We work the west side of Cleveland and some surrounding suburbs, Brooklyn, Lakewood, Parma. We do scattered site property management. We're a full-service brokerage, so we do residential sales as well, but mostly we're geared towards the investor. Our main objective is to help people buy rental properties, and then we take over the management. Our typical client is going to be out of state, a high net worth individual that doesn't have a lot of time, or perhaps they're in a market like LA where the prices are, incredibly high, and they see the prices we have out here in Cleveland, and, they're like, wow, that's pretty cheap. I couldn't even get a parking lot for that over here, and that's what we do. Right now, we're getting close to 300 units under management. Of that, my partner and I, we own about a third of those, and then the rest are just properties we're managing for our clients.
What a great business model.
Yeah, it's kind of like turnkey, but with like a slight twist,
Yeah, I mean, I've never heard anyone flat out say, I want to be a landlord and I like doing it. I mean, all you hear, dispel this myth for us. All you ever hear is, landlords, it's just, they call you in the middle of the night and all this stuff happens. So it can't be like that for you, or is it?
I mean, you get the calls, you get a lot of calls, but as you scale your business and you grow your business, that kind of stuff, you can set yourself up with a team and a support staff where you don't have to worry about, literally taking the 4 a.m. phone call at all times. At the very beginning, when we started this, it was just me and my partner, John. He was a contractor. I'm a realtor. And it was only the two of us. We didn't have an office. We didn't have support staff. It was much more hectic back then. But, as the business grew, We got office buildings, office lines, support staff, other agents, other employees. You can really automate everything. And, once you get your processes in order, it's nowhere near as crazy. But, you still get random stuff.
Your operation sounds very similar to ours. That's what Jill and I teach. And, we preach putting systems in place, just like you're referring to, so that the whole the thing works for you and not against you. And our typical business model is very similar to yours, except the asset's a little bit different. It's just land. So there's not a lot that can go wrong with the physical asset. And then everybody's kind of on auto pay. So it takes it even a step further, if you know what I mean.
Now, when you guys are doing the land, question, are you guys buying the land and then reselling the land, or are you brokering the land?
We are not licensed agents. In fact, no one in our organization has a license. And we don't represent anyone else. So we purchase the property. We purchase the property for cash, and then we either mark it up and sell it for cash, or we sell it on terms, just like you do. But you call it rent, we call it terms.
Very cool. One thing that I'd like to point out about my business, how it differs from what the majority of the other folks who are in a similar business do, is we don't strive to purchase the property and then resell. I know all the other turnkey guys want to buy it, fix it, and sell it. Our company, we went a different route. We're brokers, so we actually just want to work with you as your buyer agent, just like you were here in Cleveland, even though you're out in California. So we're out there searching the neighborhoods, trying to find you the deal from other sellers and getting you the best possible price.
That's great. That was actually my next question. What makes you successful, or what makes you different? And that's a great way to describe that.
Yeah, we did it for a few reasons. We felt it really aligned our interests with our clients, number one. And number two, it didn't bottleneck us to only the properties we could buy and rehab. As you know, when you're buying and rehabbing, that's a lot of human capital and cash. So, our inventory would be much smaller if we had to do it that way.
Just about everyone I know in this business who sticks to doing one thing like you described, does it really well, they end up being really successful. I think when you try to do 6 or 7 things, it becomes convoluted and confusing to the people that you're trying to attract.
Right.
I couldn't agree with you more.
That's great, man. So what projects are you working on right now? Give us an example of, start to finish. A guy from Los Angeles calls you, or maybe he's an existing guy. What triggers the thing? Is it a great deal in a house that you find, or give us an idea?
Well, number one, just constant marketing and presence. We're always out there. We're doing a lot online. Shows like yours, of course. People that hear your show, they hear me. They're like, hey, that sounds interesting. They'll contact us. From there, myself or one of our sales agents will discuss with that investor their particular investment goals. Because, we'll do single-family houses, we'll do duplexes, we'll also do apartment buildings, 20, 30, 40 units. Every investor's got a different mindset of what they think they want. And sometimes what they want to do isn't even actually feasible. So from there, we'll kind of guide them into something that would actually work in our market. And after we kind of come up with a game plan, we'll then go out and search properties that meet that criteria. We'll represent that particular buyer as his agent. We'll give him an estimate on how much money we would need to put in the property to get it rent ready. We're targeting properties that are aggressively priced in the market that maybe just need a little bit of love. We're not looking to find a $30,000 house that needs a $30,000 gut job. We're looking to find something where the comps, maybe they'll be $80,000, and this particular property is listed at like 65, 70 because it's dated or it just needs some minor repairs. We're looking for rehabs in the $10,000 or less range. So we give them the with the quote on how much that'll cost. After that person purchases it, we then go in and do that rehab for them, and then we start advertising for tenants. We get it occupied, and then we continue the management. And then when it comes time to exit the market, we're right there to sell that property for that investor.
Does that investor typically pay cash?
No. Actually, a lot of our investors are using conventional financing, and I believe that is the right way to go. I think people that are interested in buying rental properties, I think people that are really missing the boat if they're not focused on principal pay down. Okay,
good. That's good to know too. So you've really solved a lot of stuff. A lot of the issues that stop people from getting in this business, you're addressing, in the first 10 minutes here, which I think is great. I think there's a lot of people running away from financing. I think there's people that run. I think the general perception out there is that a $30,000 to $40,000 to $50,000 house can't produce any money. So I was looking forward. I was reviewing your bio and looking at you online before we started the show, and it seems like you figured it out. So, I mean, what's the secret?
Well, trial and error. I'll be honest with you, at the beginning, we tried a lot of different things, and I think you touched on it earlier. You have to really find what you're good at and stick to only that. We did a few traditional turnkey sales. We thought maybe that was the route we wanted to go. After that, we realized, not so much, and we really catered down to exactly what we do. We only work in certain neighborhoods, and we have one product that we provide, and that's what we stick with. We get calls from people wanting to do all kinds of crazy things. People wanting to flip properties with us or do full gut rehabs or work in areas that we're not familiar with. We cut all the distractions out, narrowed in on exactly what our model was, and just executed it, and we get better and better at it every single day. I think that's the major key right there. Pick what you're good at and just go with just that.
It's great advice. So a typical deal like it's ready to rent at what, 50 to 80 grand or some number like that, and then what kind of rent do you get?
Well, we work in a couple different asset classes. What I would classify as a B neighborhood or a C neighborhood. A C neighborhood, that's actually the city of Cleveland. Typically what we're selling over there is duplexes that are going to cost you, after rehab, between $65,000 and $85,000, and we're getting between $1,000 and $1,300 in rent. And then we're doing a lot of suburban stuff, a lot of single families in the suburbs, which are going to run you 70, 80 grand. They're going to rent for between $900 and $1,000. And these are properties. If you're all in for 80, you probably picked it up for 70 to 74, and then we put 5 or 6 in before we put a tenant in there.
And how do you find property that's cheap enough to make this all work?
Well, my company's all about constant marketing. We're a brokerage out here. We have a huge local presence. We do direct mail, yard signs. We sponsor baseball teams, soccer teams, newspaper ads. We're just constantly out in front of sellers, just constantly looking for people who want to sell their properties.
That's great. Jill and I live off of direct mail. And we send, thousands and thousands of letters out all the time. And I've been doing that for quite some time, since the early 2000s. And we send an actual offer out to people who have properties, and we get an extremely good response. In fact, that's the methodology that we teach at Land Academy. So that's great that that's working for you. I mean, is there something new that you'd like to try that you think might work that you just haven't got to yet? Or what's the predominant way that you really get the phone to ring for people who want to sell their property?
I think it's a combination of everything I mentioned. You send them the letters. You're not going to get a call usually on the first letter. You send that person a letter every few months. It starts to be in their brain. They're driving the neighborhoods. They see your sign. They look at the newspaper. They see your company. Just constant market presence. I think I read somewhere that you have to touch somebody 7 times before they want to contact you again. So I think you need to be out in front on all fronts, and it's just a combination. I've had calls from guys where I owned a house right next door to their house, and they told me they saw my sign on the house for every day for the last year, and then they finally decided to call me because they had another building that they wanted to sell.
Well, that's great. I guess, Jill, that's one of the advantages of working in one area.
That's what I was just going to say. Ours, we just canvass the whole country, and pretty much, I'm not married to a state or an area, so I send out that big blast and move on to the next county. So I was going to ask James though, do you find you typically have more properties, or like my problem is I have more properties sometimes than I can work with. Do you typically have more investors or more properties?
Well, we work everything in our area, so we always have a high supply of properties. Are they necessarily always priced at the price that all of my investors want to pay? Not necessarily. It's a balance trying to find the seller to come to where the buyer is going to agree. Because we're playing the middleman, so it's tough to always get everybody on the same page. Because sellers always think their property's worth twice as much as it actually is. Buyers always think the property's worth half of what it actually is. So sometimes it could be a difficult dance.
Mm-hmm. We've built up a good. I'm sure you do too. Have a good in your back pocket. Oh, I know that just the guy who's going to want this when the call comes in. So,
exactly.
Yeah, it's the greatest thing.
Okay. Yeah, that is the best. We get tons of leads come in from the website all the time, and we just constantly getting new leads. But your proven investors, the ones who've actually closed the deals with you, like when the really, really good deals come, those are usually the folks getting them first. I get a lot of stuff a lot of times. There'll be an area where the houses sell for $80,000, and I'll get a brand new investor. It's like, hey, anything that's $40,000 that requires owner financing at 0% down for 30 years, send my way. I'm like, yeah, no problem, bud. That's going right to you. Just unproven guy. Meanwhile, we other investors have bought, properties 5-10 off of us a month. When that unicorn comes around, I'm sure it's going to go to you, bud.
Yeah.
If the transaction sounds like it should be on a late night television show, I usually run away.
Right.
Yeah, our criteria is even more simple. To take it a couple steps further, we won't buy anything at all unless we can double, triple, or quadruple our resale, usually before the property's closed. So if we're buying it for $1,000, we know someone will buy it. Usually we call them A-list buyers.
Okay.
And if we can make $4,000 on it, sell it for $4,000, really even before it gets recorded, we don't sell it. Or if we sell it on terms, which is what we do the majority of these days, I need to see a net 50% year over year return. So if we buy it for $4,000 and then we sell it or sell it on terms and we collect $2,000 a year for 18, 20, 25 years, that's our business model, and that's what we concentrate on. Mm-hmm. And it's land, so it's land. And I get calls from. We don't have any investors; it's just Jill and I. And I get calls from investors weekly, asking us to get into how they can get involved. So it's not something that Jill and I have talked about, although maybe at some point we should. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But yeah, man, it's so nice to talk to somebody who gets it and who understands that you can retain these assets for well under market and make them income producing for a long time, if not forever. Mm-hmm. So I got to ask you a couple questions about the land market in that area. Do you see any good land deals?
Nah, not particularly. It's a pretty highly populated area. The real estate over here is all very, very old. So I don't see too much room to do anything on vacant land out here in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm. How about new construction? Are there new subdivisions going up in the outskirts?
In the suburbs, yeah, the outer ring suburbs, we see a lot. We see some new developments coming. There's a few big players in that industry that they're pretty much have a huge what's the term I'm looking for? Huge market share. That's what I'm looking for. Blank there. We got a few guys that have the majority of the market share. That's not something I'm too highly involved in. I don't pay too much attention to that. It's just really never been part of our plans to do any new construction. But the outer ring suburbs is where you'll see those.
That's great, man. So, I mean, what successes and failures would you like to share with somebody who's new at this? A lot of our members, they have a couple of failures, I don't know, in the first couple of years of their career, and they get discouraged. What can you share with us that you think might be helpful with them?
You got to roll with the punches. I lose money on deals. I make money on deals, but I still lose money on deals. Bad things happen. We deal with rental properties, so we run into all kinds of crazy situations. We'll have a property go empty. It'll get broken into. Things will get stolen. The property will be damaged. You have to build those kind of things into your numbers when you're deciding if this is the business you want to be in. If I could collect 100% of the monies that were due to me, I'd be a multi-millionaire right now. But,
Right.
That's just unfortunately not the way it always works. So, again, yeah, my biggest thing would be hedge your bets, try to take moderate risks, but know that bad things can and will happen. Make sure you're capitalized and are able to weather those storms when they come. And, try not to take it personally. Try to look upward and onward, move on, and, keep fighting.
That's great advice. I call it putting your thick skin suit on.
Exactly.
There's
It's a difficult business.
Some days you just, some days you got to put it on and just deal with it.
Yeah, sometimes I wake up and, I want to start crying through the middle of the afternoon. But by the end of the day, I'm usually okay. And then I wake up tomorrow, want to tear again. But, I put the fires out by the end of the day usually.
Wait, can I jump in on this, Steven? Because that is so funny. All right, we were watching the some news show this morning, and they're talking about the whole Amazon thing and in the news, and people were saying that they're like crying at their desk. I've not met someone that wasn't crying at their desk. Amazon's getting beat up by whatever their culture or something. And Steve and I both look at each other and like, I cry at my desk all the time.
And I own the company.
Yeah.
I was actually crying before you guys called me.
I'm like, what's the big deal about that?
That's part of being an entrepreneur.
Exactly. Thank you. And now I have the title for this show.
Oh my gosh, yes. I forgot about that. Joe, what's going to be the title?
Crying at my desk.
James Wise, I'm crying with my desk.
That's right, by James Wise.
All good stuff, James. I really, really appreciate you having on the show and spending some time with us this morning.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you soon. Boy, I feel like the luckiest guy there ever was sometimes when I talk to people in the landlord business.
That stresses me out a bit.
I'm a little stressed out too, Jill. Thank you. I agree.
I'm really glad and happy that he's successful and he's got a business model that works, but it just seems like there's a lot of financing floating around, if that makes sense. I mean, nobody's really buying this or buying that. It's all, so you got deadlines and mortgages and people looking for this and that would just be like, it would, like I said, be really stressful on me.
Yeah, what would stress me out even more is break-ins and just the stuff that you have to deal with houses or apartments. I think it works when you really are a huge company and you can really sub that out and budget for it and all that. But
right, he's there, so that's good.
Selling a piece of property on terms and then just collecting the auto pay. I mean, how often do we really talk to somebody who buys property from us?
How often? Not very often. No, I mean it's short and sweet, and they're happy, and we move on.
So, man, I feel lucky.
Totally. Well, it's interesting that I know that we have a number of members that started with our business model with the plans of going in other directions that have stopped their plans of going other directions. Once they test something like his thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
there's people right.
One of their names is Steve.
Yeah, exactly.
Butala.
Exactly. Yeah, you start in the land business, you get going, hey, I got some cash, now I could do this, I can flip something, and then you go, yeah, that's right, and Jill DeWit. And then you go, what were we thinking? This is crazy and dumb. How much money I could have made if I just stuck, which we've never stopped, but let's just go back to what we know, and it's easy and it's fun.
It's a distracted. We've been distracted, specifically during the downturn. Remember that? We got distracted and you know the story.
Well, it's easy to get caught up in the hype. I mean, when you're up at 3 a.m. and you see it on TV, it sounds good. Hey, you know what? Have you noticed, by the way, none of us are on TV shows doing 3 a.m. broadcasts. We are quietly, we're quietly over here happily making good money and sleeping through the night. So, we don't need to be on TV at 3 a.m. saying, come join our whatever nuttiness. We're doing just fine.
I had a guy, it's funny you bring that up, a television producer, call me, I think it was a couple weeks ago. And he said, you guys aren't doing this right. you have this silly little podcast, and great, that's great. You're trying to teach people to do this stuff, and he said, but what you really need to do, and then he described the whole late night TV model with commercials, and then he starts to describe this to me. So the whole thing is you get them to a live event for free, and then you charge them for the new package. And some people, they want to spend $300. Some people are ready to spend $13,000, and it's just you know what? Didn't you have a phone conversation with one of our existing members about that he went to one of these things or something like that?
Yes, that was so good. And I was just gonna say that he said, I knew I was in the wrong place when on the first break our assignment was to go call our credit card companies and up our limits. I about fell over. I'm like, are you kidding me? That's not the way you should be doing this. And by the way, you should not be taking out credit if you, that's even just to do this. Start with the terms, or start with an options deal. Don't put any money down. Get some. Hey, so what if it takes you 6 months and a couple deals to get a couple thousand in the bank? That's a much better plan. Everybody's sleeping well at night.
Right.
Not taking on more debt. The goal is to not have debt. So
that's what the goal is. If you're going to take on debt to buy rental houses, so you can hopefully pay the rent to pay that debt. I don't think everybody's got a comfort level, and our guest today it's clearly he's making that work, and my hat is off to him. But that's not. I don't want to get into more debt to try to make some money.
Well, he's a broker too, so it sounds like he's not taking it on. He's a whole different thing that he does, which is great for him. But here's another thing: you and I watch these shows. I mean, on the HGTV thing, it just makes me cry. Like, okay,
today's cry day.
It is, right? So because it's so scary. I mean, is it Tarek and Christina? I want to say it is. Everybody knows who I'm talking about. Where they are in Southern California, and they're like, okay, we took all of our money off this to put it into this, and then we maxed out all our cards, and then we got so-and-so's mom's credit up to the max. I'm like, you shouldn't be putting your family on the line too for this stuff. It just makes me. Is it entertaining? I guess
that's what it is.
Okay, I'm like, are you really doing that?
Unlike this podcast,
right?
It's
not entertaining anymore. Well, how about this? It's funny, the crying at my desk. Why would I be? I'm really not really crying.
I'm not either.
I know.
I'm crying with tears of joy.
That's exactly what happens, crying at my desk. Old jobs maybe get me out of here crying at my desk.
Accountants go and cry in the bathroom all the time. I found this out for sure.
Oh, day traders. Anyone with a lot of money in the stock market. My friend George. Okay.
All right.
We should go do what we do best, which is...
Yeah. Let's go buy some real estate.
Deal.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
What's the saying again?
Yeah.
All right. Let's go buy some land.
We hold a drawing to win a free property every month. Enter to win by reviewing this show on iTunes and downloading our free ebook at landacademy.com.
If you want to get involved or you need more information about our profitable, niche real estate operation, call 480-467-0359. You just might get Jill at the other end of the line.
landacademy.com. You are not alone in your real estate ambition.